All right, today we're diving into a first-hand account of, well, something strange in the sky. But here's the thing. This isn't just another spooky story. This is a real investigation, documented by the person it happened to, who used his own video to cut through the noise and find a clear, powerful signal in the data.
So just imagine hearing that. Those are the actual words from the pilot, right in the middle of the event. It's that initial moment of pure confusion, a little bit of fear that kicks off this whole incredible journey from a simple sighting to a serious investigation.
So our story really begins with this object that, for a split second seemed totally normal. But as you're about to see, that first easy explanation, it started to fall apart pretty darn quick.
Okay, so the setup here is absolutely crucial. The witness isn't just some random person. He's a trained paraglider and paramotorist. He's flying over Ranikot Fort in Sindh, this massive, remote, ancient valley. We've got the exact date, time, and calm conditions. And, most importantly, he had multiple cameras rolling. This isn't just a memory. It was documented from the get-go.
Picture this. He's cruising at about 1,400 feet, taking in the scenery, when suddenly, whoosh, something just flashes right underneath him. He immediately whips his head around to look, but there's nothing there. It's gone. His first thought, which he actually says over the radio, is that it must be a drone. And up in the air, his brain does exactly what our brains are trained to do. It tries to find the most logical answer. A bird, a drone. Makes sense. So he shrugs it off and keeps flying. But that little bit of curiosity, it just wouldn't go away. So, once he's back on the ground, he figures, hey, I'll just check the tape, see what that thing really was.
And this, right here, is where the whole story changes. The pilot stops being just a witness and becomes an investigator. He's about to turn that split-second moment of confusing noise into the clear, undeniable voice of evidence.
So, he doesn't just rewatch the video. No, he dissects it. He scrubs through to find the exact moment, zooms way in, and then slows the playback down a lot. And what was just a blur at normal speed suddenly becomes this distinct white object. But it's only when he starts breaking it down, literally frame by frame, that the true scale of the anomaly starts to show itself.
Now, to really get what he found, we need a quick primer on something called frames per second, or FPS. His GoPro was shooting at 30 frames every second. That means each individual picture you see in that video is just a snapshot of time lasting only 0.033 seconds. A tiny, tiny slice of time that is about to become incredibly important.
All right, now we get to the really mind-bending part. Armed with this knowledge, how much time passes between each frame? The pilot starts to do some simple math that leads him to a result that just seems impossible. So here's what he saw. In one single frame, the object is here. In the very next frame, just 0.033 seconds later, it's way over there. Using Google Earth to pinpoint his own location and the landmarks on the ground, he was able to calculate the distance it traveled between just those two frames. The answer? About 120 meters.
So let that sink in for a second. 120 meters in 0.033 seconds. When you do the math on that, distance over time, you get a speed of 3,600 meters per second. That's 3.6 kilometers in one single second.
Now, that number might just sound big, but let's put it into perspective because this is where it gets crazy. A commercial jetliner? It flies at around 277 meters per second. The fastest jet humans have ever built, the SR-71 Blackbird, could hit maybe 1,200. This thing was moving 3 times faster than our most advanced aircraft ever.
Now you might be thinking, okay, maybe he messed up the calculation. Well, he thought so too. So he tried a completely different method. He went back in the video and tracked the object frame by frame all the way to where it seemed to appear, near a mountain about 3 kilometers away. It covered that distance in just 16 frames. The new calculation, 3,750 meters per second, a near-perfect match. The data was solid.
But just when you think the story can't get any stranger, it does. Because as he kept scrubbing through the rest of his footage, he found something even more shocking. There wasn't just one object. There were 2.
Yeah, so just a few seconds after that first sighting, while he's on the radio talking about it, a second object zips by. But this one, he didn't see it at all, not with his own eyes. It was only captured by the camera. And this time, it was much, much closer, crossing his path from left to right. Which brings up a huge question, right? How on earth could something fly that close to him and he wouldn't even see it? How is that possible?
While the answer is all about the limits of our own biology. Think about it. An object moving at that speed would cross an average-sized room in 0.02 of a second. Our eyes, which basically see the world at a rate of 30 to 60 frames per second, simply cannot process motion that fast. It would be, for all intents and purposes, completely invisible.
And this is what makes this whole thing so profoundly weird. We're talking about an object moving at more than 10 times the speed of sound. That should create a massive, deafening sonic boom. But there was nothing. It should have created a huge vortex of air that would have thrown his glider all over the sky. But his flight wasn't disturbed at all. It just moved silently in a perfectly straight line, as if the rules of physics just didn't apply.
Now look, if this was just one isolated story, you might just file it away under weird and move on. But as the pilot started digging, he realized his experience wasn't a one-off. It's actually part of a much larger and officially documented pattern.
And don't just take my word for it. This quote, it comes directly from a Pentagon report. Their special office that investigates these things looked at hundreds of sightings and found 21 that are truly unexplainable. They describe incredible speeds and impossible movements, the exact same characteristics the pilot calculated from his own footage.
So, you see, the Ranikot incident doesn't exist in a vacuum. It fits right into a pattern that includes famous cases like the Navy's Tic Tac UFO from 2004 and even a drone capture in Utah in 2016 of an object also clocked at 10 times the speed of sound. This isn't an isolated event. It's a recurring phenomenon.
And that's really where we'll leave it. This one pilot used technology and careful reason to give a clear, undeniable voice to his experience. He managed to pull a real signal out of what could have been just fleeting noise. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other moments like this have happened, dismissed as a bird or a trick of the light, just waiting for someone to take a closer look?